When did property investment come into your head?
Obviously, I tried stocks, shares, crypto, lost plenty of money in crypto.
You've got a $5 million portfolio, 31, been in the mines for 5 years. We'll talk through your strategy.
Buying in your backyard is 100% never always the best option.
And when you're looking at portfolios, what are the biggest mistakes you're seeing? What are the biggest opportunities you're seeing?
I've missed a cycle there. I wanted to buy here. I've missed a cycle here.
What sort of mindset do you think they need to have to kind of take that next step and potentially get off the FIFO work?
Open my eyes to it, obviously interstate investing.
You've got 2 regional assets in the portfolio. How do you go from 2 to 5?
Most years I try and go for 2 to 6 to 8 month holidays.
Hasn't told us that yet. You're listening to the Follio Property Podcast. I'm Reece Bedell, and I'm here each week with my co-host, Lachlan and Reece. If you're enjoying the podcast, do us a favor, hit like, hit subscribe, leave us a comment so we can grow this channel. Lachlan, we've got a special guest today.
We do. It's a good story, this one.
It's a very good story. So we're joined by someone who proves you can build serious wealth while still working in FIFO. Chris has built a $5 million property portfolio while still working in the mines. And after working with us at Follio, we were so impressed with his knowledge that we actually ended up offering him a job. Welcome, Chris.
Boys, how's it going?
What an introduction.
A very good introduction.
Yes.
But we've been wanting to get you on for a while, even before we got you into the business, because we get a lot of clients.
Similar situations.
Very similar situations. And Lachlan and myself aren't the FIFO type. So we hear a lot of stories through mates or family about, there seems to be 2 types of FIFO worker. The ones that really are all about investing, whether that's crypto, property, any sort of investment strategy, or the other ones just spend all their money on the toys. So been really excited to get you in, Chris.
Yeah.
And is that the case, mate? Being what I hear that the FIFO scene, it's almost like there's so much time and money that I suppose that's all you're doing. You're working 15-hour days, 16-hour days. So everyone's just trying to find an edge, whether it is cryptos, property, shares, latest investments. Is that sort of the environment that the FIFO lifestyle is?
Yeah. I guess you kind of got your 2 boys up there, or girls as well. Like, you've kind of got the ones that are there to build wealth and get out as quick as they can because they hate the place. And then you got the ones that kind of, it's their lifestyle, isn't it? Like, they're up there drinking piss every night. They're up there, just pissing all their money away on R&Rs.
And do those guys love it though, or girls love it, or do they just love the money and the lifestyle, but they still kind of want to get out? Because that's the sentiment we always hear. Everyone just wants to go up there, earn their money, and get out eventually.
I think, don't get me wrong, I've definitely met boys that froth it up there and they couldn't think anything better. But look, I reckon 80% of the sentiment up there, guys don't want to be up there. You're away from friends, family, food shit, dongers. It's not a lifestyle you want to be living long term. Like, the cash is good, why it's there. But you need that exit plan for sure.
So the majority of clients that I come across, they get to us pretty late in the piece and they've taken on a lot of debt. But we always talk about on the podcast, good debt versus bad debt. And that bad debt typically equates to having a couple of utes, jet ski, a boat, some credit card debt, some big expensive holidays. And maybe if they're lucky, they've invested in a property, but they've typically overcapitalized into the wrong asset, something that's really flashy, off-plan apartments, or they've been sucked into an investment scheme. Would that be a fair assessment of a lot of your colleagues?
Yeah. Don't get me wrong. The 79 Land Cruiser is definitely the flavour of the month still for a lot of boys up there. When these boys are putting 150 grand into a car and and they've got nothing else but the car. That's obviously a big issue with a lot of the boys up there. Consumer debt's obviously definitely one. But then obviously you also got those guys that are just too scared to take on anything. They've got 100, 200 grand cash in the bank and, they've worked so hard to get it. They're too scared to actually do anything with it, which,
So they're working so hard for the dollars that they actually are far too conservative on the other extreme of the equation.
Yeah. Like, just on the weekend, I was having a chat with one of my mates and that was exactly his sentiment. He's, been working the mines for a few years now, got, over 100 grand sitting there and just doesn't actually know where to go and where to take action, to invest that money. And it was kind of just too scared to actually take that step because you've worked so hard. The last thing you want to do is lose it and then have to go back and, do another 2 years in the mines to get that money.
Yeah, interesting. So, Chris, you've got a $5 million portfolio. Just over $2 million of that's in equity. So that's really the value of the portfolio. How old are you?
Just gone 31.
31, been in the mines for 5 years. We'll talk through your strategy, but when you went into the mines, was that the plan? Let's do 5 years to get out?
Yeah.
Why are you
it was
different?
It was definitely, look, I think most people's plan, they've got the 5-year plan. Like everyone talks about the 5-year plan. You get a lot of guys that talk about I'm on my third 5-year plan. Obviously, yeah, happens a lot. Mine was, I was adamant that I was sticking to that 5-year plan.
Yeah, you're sticking to that 5-year plan, and you're almost at the conclusion of those 5 years, right? And with $2 million of equity, that plan seemed to have come together quite well.
Yeah, 100%. Like, obviously, it didn't come easy. There was obviously a lot of hard nights researching, doing my research, working out where to be buying, how to buy, doing different courses. I've done quite a lot of different courses, spending money on education. That was obviously a big one for me. And yeah, just kind of getting the right team around me so to guide me and make sure I took the right steps and not, end up losing that money that I've worked so hard for and get that money really working for me.
That's a big one, education.
Yeah.
We talk about all the time, and people listening to the podcast are doing exactly that, right? Trying to upskill their knowledge base, educating themselves so they don't make mistakes that either we've made in our personal journey or what we've seen from clients. So I think that's probably understated.
And was that always the plan? So you mentioned the 5-year plan. Was that purely from when did property investment come into your head? Was it the plan just to earn the money, or was it the plan to earn the money to then leverage that into whether it was property, shares, crypto?
It was always, I guess it was the fast track plan. So obviously, being an electrician, you can earn still good money in the city. There's no doubt about it. But, you can kind of earn double the average income FIFO. So for me in my head, I was like, that means I can get to where I want to be double as fast. Like, no one wants to work forever. Me especially, I was always want to be like retired by 40 or at least work optional by 40. That was always the goal. And for me, property seemed like the safest bet. It was a proven product. It's been around for, bricks and mortar. You hear it all the time. And, the research and that's there to back that for me. So back, I guess early days, was when I realised, property investing was probably what resonated the most with me. Obviously, I'd tried stocks, shares, crypto, lost plenty of money in crypto.
All have.
Yeah. And yeah, property was the one that obviously kept shining through and where I kept making my money. And obviously the leverage aspect of property was one of the biggest things for me. You can really propel yourself forward.
Did you have a
leverage.
mentor? Like how did you get into it? Was it someone on the mines? Was it yourself going down YouTube rabbit holes or forums, I guess, 5 years ago?
Well, believe it or not, it was mainly podcasts. Like, I've been a huge advocate, and here I am now on one, but big advocate for podcasts, listened to so many podcasts, read a lot of books. Obviously, like Robert Kiyosaki, Rich Dad, Poor Dad. That was a real, rocket in my head where I was like, oh, wow, that actually makes a lot of sense. Parents weren't really into investing too much. They were very conservative. They obviously taught me how to save. Which is a big part of it. Huge part, yeah.
Understanding the value of money is arguably one of the most important things when building a portfolio.
Yep, 100%. And that kind of really got me to that next stage of where I could be like, okay, now what do I need to do to double that wealth and build on what I've already got. Leverage, exactly.
Leverage.
Do they give you any education like through the companies you work for in the mines? Like they're obviously a big push on mental health, right? Like they've seen swings change, in the last generation where the shorter swings, really trying to encourage people to protect their mental health. Obviously, people are earning a shitload more money than what they would be earning in the city. Is there any education up there on financial, like
literature?
Financial literature?
Not that I'm aware of. Haven't really seen or come across it. It's kind of up to you to what you spend your money on. And I guess for a company's point of view, why would they want you to not work and make your money work?
Yeah, they'd rather you be a slave to the income, right? That's
correct.
The whole point.
Yep. Yeah. So I don't actually know why they would give you any information, but it would be good for a lot of guys, because that's a huge part is understanding what to spend your money on, what not to spend your money on.
Yep. And the rumour mill that it would be, I expect everyone's chasing a quick win, right?
Yeah. That's why obviously, I guess when 2022 when crypto was going through the roof, every man his dog in the crib room. That's all they were talking about.
Everyone had a tip.
Yeah, everyone had the hot tip. And so many people were refinancing houses and stuff just to put into crypto, which was crazy.
Yeah. I'm sure we're going to get around to the strategy, and that's what our listeners want to hear is obviously the journey, which I'm sure we'll touch on, but also the strategy. What got you to that point, and then what the strategy is now. Obviously, you come through the podcast and come into our business to do a client meeting with myself. Now, what is it, 12 months ago?
Yeah, it's probably nearly dead on 12 months. Yeah, November 24.
Yeah, and then obviously in reviewing that portfolio, a lot of regional exposure, and that was obvious in the medium was, your initial strategy was very much a capital growth, but with very much a focus towards cash flow, and that led you to the sort of regional plays. Talk us through that.
Yeah, so obviously earlier on in my journey, I realised, before I kind of started mining, I wasn't on, a huge wage.
What were you on when you bought your first property?
Oh, shit, I was an apprentice second year. Like 60, 70 grand a year, maybe.
And what did you buy?
Bought a house and land package in Geelong was my first one, yeah. Back then you could...
If you had your time again?
Wouldn't be that play, no.
Yeah, exactly. No, it's good though. But that's what we learn though, right? But the hardest thing to do is often that first step. Mine was a house and land package in Horsham, which is worse than Geelong. So we've all made mistakes. So that's on 60K house and land package. Fortunately, and this is like investors at the moment, even if you buy the wrong assets, if you buy the wrong assets at the right time in the right macro market, it will cover the cracks. And fortunately, that was 2015. Geelong was pretty much on the brink of a boom.
Yep.
And the next 3 years, we saw 15, 20%. 2015, 15% growth, 16, 20% growth, 17, 15% growth. So it probably sort of washed over any sort of micro details of the asset quality.
Correct. Yeah. Like, to be honest, it worked out quite well in the end. Really set me up for that next purchase. And at the time, I thought I was the man, and I'd pretty much
Can't do anything wrong.
Yeah, and I was like, I'm going to do that exact same strategy again. And for the next purchase, I'd finished my apprenticeship and was going to go overseas for a while. And I thought, what better way than buying a plot of land, and it'll title in a year's time when I come back. I'll make some money. Yeah, so that's exactly
again, pretty much another house and land type scenario.
Yeah,
so where was this purchase?
Ballarat.
Yep. Okay.
So
another regional.
Yep. Did the exact same play. Put a 10 grand deposit down before I left. Come back amidst of COVID. So this was obviously in 2019, and by the time that titled, it had also done a massive run. So I thought again, oh wow, this is
how
easy.
Is this? Regional Victoria can't miss, particularly late 2000s, like that 2015 to 18 period.
Yep. And I was like, God, this is too easy. Sign a bit of paper, make money. Like this is the best.
What drew you to that area? Like, are you local to those?
Yeah. So at the time, I did my apprenticeship down in Geelong. So yeah, back then, pretty much. Being on apprenticeship wages, I could only buy my first just pretty much by the skin of my teeth. Got that property through the original deal, and then obviously was stuck for ages. So yeah, obviously as your apprenticeship goes along, save more money, and then I wanted to go traveling and live overseas for a year. So I thought I want to still have exposure, and Ballarat was at the time, from the research I'd been doing, it was a pretty good market to kind of buy. And Geelong still would have been good, but I'd kind of been priced out of Geelong, and I wanted to diverse. I was, still kind of aware of, moving stuff around and having a bit of diversification in the portfolio. So Ballarat was, for me, the next easy step. I had, it was familiar to you, and that's why I ended up going there.
Yeah, brilliant. And so at this point in time, you got 2 regional assets in the portfolio. How do you go from 2 to 5, and what changed in your approach? Because obviously regional house and land packages, certainly probably not something we would advise our clients to invest in. Although, like you said, if you time the market, it can sort of, I guess band-aid a lot of, not always the best quality assets. Obviously, then you started to get more quality, more land value assets in your portfolio. What was the pivot there, and where did that take you?
Really, the biggest change for me then was, so by then I'd come back. I built my property in Ballarat once I'd come back from my holiday, and I realised I probably could have done better, but I realised I can't just keep throwing darts at a dartboard and hoping and trying to win. So from there, that's when I really ran down the rabbit hole of education.
Yep.
And that's pretty much all I did was, when I went into the mines, then also talking to different guys that were a bit further ahead of me in their journey. Opened my eyes to obviously interstate investing.
Yep.
And then, that brought me to Brisbane at the time in 2022 was my next purchase.
So now you sort of pivoted from a regional cash flow play to a more of, okay, let's get some capital city exposure, some more blue chip assets into the portfolio to balance it.
Correct. Yeah. That in my head, that was kind of what I was trying to achieve. I was on a bit better wage then too. So that was kind of the play I went for was, that drove me to, Brisbane and bought it was a townhouse there, 3x2, purchased that for $290. So it wasn't a huge purchase for me. It was a more yield and growth play. But that now just got revalued at $650. So it's done exceptionally well as well over that time. And then shortly after, 2 months after that purchase, I purchased one in Wembley in Perth.
Another capital city.
Again, that was the play we were going for.
And just for listeners, everyone's like, well, this guy just keep forking out cash. You're buying 3 properties in 6 months. Assuming you're re-leveraging, refinancing using the equity, pull that equity out, reinvest that into the next asset. And that's the power of building a portfolio. It's not saving it for a deposit, spending it, working hard for another 2 years, saving for a deposit and spending it. It's refinance using the equity to reinvest.
That's correct, And obviously Geelong being, I'd nearly owned that for, 8 years at that stage. It had fruited quite well. I had quite a lot of equity in that. And then Ballarat being after the COVID boom, and that had quite a lot of equity in both those properties. So by refinancing them, withdrawing a bit of equity, and then going into those 2 markets for 2022, that's how I managed to purchase both.
Did you live in any of these, or are you purely rent vesting this whole strategy?
Rent vesting the whole time. So from like the research and everything I'd done, and obviously because I love traveling, I was huge, love my holidays. Most years I try and go for 2 to 6 to 8 month holidays.
Hasn't told us that yet.
No, not anymore. But so I was obviously love my travel. So everything, that's why obviously the yield play was so big for me, and rent vesting suited me to a T because obviously, as you know, you get primary owner like occupied debt. It just ruins your capacity, ruins that borrowing capacity.
And at what point, we'll keep going on with the portfolio, but at what point did you enter the mines? So the first one, you're an apprentice, which is, cracking job to get on the property ladder on that sort of income. When did you enter the mines in that property journey? At what property did you purchase once you started earning that FIFO money?
So from property 3 was when I was in the mines. So end of 2020, I come over, and then 2021, I pretty much just worked. I was trying to do, research, COVID. It was just a difficult kind of time for everyone there. So pretty much all I did in 2021 was work. And then 2022, I had all this money sitting there, understood,
Equity. That is equity.
Equity as well, and cash. I had a lot of cash because I just worked a full year. You couldn't travel that year. It was the best year I've had working. And the big thing for me was obviously with all the research and stuff you do comes, you understand how money is just debased, and that just scared me no end. So
in what regard?
In the regard of inflation.
Yep.
So obviously that was where I went down that rabbit hole of understanding currency and how our money is just printed, and then
it devalues every year after that.
Yep. And you need assets over cash in your account. Cash is just getting devalued.
Yeah.
And that's and debased, and that I guess
is that a common conversation with your mates on the mining sides? It's pretty in depth, but you're right. That's why we invest in real estate, because once your money's printed, it does.
Yeah.
It loses its value. That's exactly what it does.
It's definitely not a common conversation. Obviously, that's you try and.
Is that the conversation you had with your mate last week that he's got 100K in cash sitting there?
Yeah, you're trying to explain it to people. I think a lot of people don't want to believe that their money's just getting, inflation's silent tax, isn't it?
It is.
It's, and a lot of people don't probably realize that, cash in your account is just dead, and you're never going to save your way to retirement. And I guess that 2021 was a really big year for me in understanding, if you didn't really wake up during COVID, you probably weren't going to wake up with what's going on in the world. And assets are kind of the way the average person can get their way out of
the grind.
The 9
to 5, or in your case, the swing, the 2 and 2s, or the 4 and 2s, the mining wages. Interesting. So Okay, then we met 12 months ago, and obviously when we caught up, my biggest concern was exposure to regional plays, and hence the movement towards capital cities, which is a great diversification play, not only from a location point of view, but asset quality play. As we're here in late 2025, what's the strategy for you next?
So now the strategy would be moving forward, going into commercial. That would be kind of the play now. I want a bit more
Passive income.
Passive income. Yep, a different exposure to a different asset too. So now I've got over 7 residential properties. So we'll look at selling down a couple of them as well next year. Have a capital gain event next financial year, and go into start selling down a little bit. Go into that income producing asset now.
Yep.
And then we can then look at reinvesting back into residential real estate to build up again.
This is a common occurrence with many of our clients, and I'm sure you're seeing it now, Chris, as you're an advisor within our business, is that is almost a textbook play if you look at a 5-year strategy, very much geared towards capital growth in the early phase. And typically it has to involve some cash flow. You talked about it when you're on lower wage, you need to have that cash flow. You build that asset base, you recycle that through residential property. Then once you build an asset base and you've hit that sort of $2 million mark, being able to sell down a couple of those assets, realise a gain, and then reinvest that into the cash flow, that's going to get you to that, firstly, off the FIFO lifestyle, but secondly, get you to that retirement goal of 40 where you've got the opportunity not to have to work, building towards that $150,000 to $200,000 income of passive income from your property portfolio.
Correct. Yeah. And that's pretty much exactly what I've done. And that's how, from obviously earlier on, I was kind of fumbling around a bit, but once I kind of got that education and understood how to build that portfolio, that's the exact route I've gone.
Would you say, and in reflection, it's always good in reflection, you were a proximity investor? What I mean by that, you invested in your backyard because that's what you're familiar with.
Yep.
If you had made those purchases in Victoria in 2022, your portfolio would look very different, obviously, today.
Yep.
And now being an advisor and seeing different portfolios, what's probably the thing that surprised you, or what have you seen, and what would you do differently? Because you could argue, not to discredit you, that you fluked the market, but that in your early phase, but then you educated yourself to say, okay, and you had enough, I guess, you're humble enough to identify that you needed to learn more about cycles, about markets, macro, micro, because first one might have been lucky, second one, which is, that could have been really lucky. I don't want to fluke the third.
Yep.
So talk to me about that, what you're seeing as an advisor, what you see with investors, and what you've seen in yourself.
I guess it's just getting comfortable with there's always a market in Australia that's doing well, and educating yourself that buying in your backyard is 100% never always the best option. So just taking that non-biased opinion on, all right, where in Australia right now is growing the most, and where in Australia, should I be deploying? You only get, I know you've talked about it before, you only get so much borrowing power, and you really want to deploy that borrowing power the best possible way you can to leverage it and get the biggest possible return from that.
And as now in your advisor capacity, what are you seeing when you're looking at portfolios? What are the biggest mistakes you're seeing? What are the biggest opportunities you're seeing? Because obviously you're servicing people very similar to yourself that been in the mining space. What's the biggest misconceptions or the biggest opportunities?
So I guess the biggest one is people that don't want to leave their backyard, they've already done well. So they bought, Perth, for example, and they bought there 5-6 years ago down in Rockingham.
Yep.
So they bought that, they've done exceptionally well, and they're just like, I don't want to leave Perth. I've done so well here. It's humming, everyone's still buying, everyone's making money.
It can only go up. Let's buy another 3 in Rockingham.
Yeah. And that's a massive one where you're trying to change people's mindset in okay, you've done well, you have lucked out, but at the same time, you've just timed that market perfectly. You happened to be in Rockingham when it was going up.
Yep. Geelong 2015.
Exactly. And when you start saying that that's what you've done and it is, call it luck, call it whatever.
If you had bought 7 properties in Geelong, it might have been a little bit of a different story over the next 7 years, right?
Yeah, correct. And seeing and getting, people to understand that and just changing their mind shift there is probably a big one for me at the moment when I'm taking on calls and stuff. But yeah, most people kind of come around when you can show them a bit of data and
Yeah,
why.
the evidence that backs it, right? Because data is what underpins decision making.
Yep.
And I think that's the problem. People have recency bias, and it just, if you want to believe something at the moment, it's very easy to believe, right? The media's right behind this surge in national house prices. Just last month, October, the largest monthly gain that we've seen since 2023. So there's a lot of momentum. And you're right, if you've made money in a certain market, it's hard to look outside that. But diversification has worked so well for you, and probably what's underpinned your portfolio, would you say?
Yeah, for sure. That diversification is really exactly what's underpinned it. If you actually look at each play that I've kind of made, it's been at that upswing of those cycles, you know. So whether it was Geelong, Ballarat, regional Queensland, Brisbane, Perth, when you look at when I bought, it was during that upswing. So you're not sitting there waiting for equity. The moment it's settling, that property's settling, you're getting that money.
And you can recycle it.
And you can recycle it. Within 12 months, you're going again. And you can just keep rinsing, repeating, and you can just chase the markets all around Australia, and it's always, you know, going to be like that.
What would be cool to kind of wrap up with your story as well, is especially on that FIFO, any FIFO workers out there listening, what sort of mindset do you think they need to have to kind of take that next step and start leveraging that income that they're earning and get a bit of a kickstart to potentially get off the FIFO work?
It's probably, I guess, the biggest one is just taking action. Stop. You know, a lot of guys out there have been talking about it for 6, 12 months. Oh, yeah, I wanted to buy Perth. I've missed a cycle there. Oh, I wanted to buy here. I've missed a cycle here. Like, it's just educate yourself, take action, and just back yourself. Like, at the end of the day, you're never going to get it 100% right. And that's really the biggest thing, is just if you're sitting there procrastinating on where should I be buying or what should I be doing, like, back yourself with the research you've done, and then just take action and go forward.
Yeah. And what about goals? Like, you're looking to exit now after a successful 5-year stint there. Was that the goal, to exit at a certain point, or do you reevaluate that every year?
It was obviously you're always reevaluating your goals and what you're trying to achieve. But like, I don't know if I speak for most people working FIFO, I hate it up there. Like, it's not fun at all. Like, you're there for the money and that's it.
Yeah.
Like, it sucks. You're away from friends, family, like all those type of things. And yeah, so it was really the 5-year goal, and, you know, sticking to it, I, you know, pretty much have made it in 5 years. Like, it was 2020 I started in December, and it's 2025 December now, and I'm pretty much, on the way out.
I guess it's good to see someone actually go through that journey, and probably refreshing for a lot of people listening to it in the same boat. You nailed on the head. Inaction is what cripples most people's ability to either get into the market, to buy a property. And you're right, it's always recency bias. In Perth, for instance, 2018, you couldn't make money in the Perth market. 2019 was reinforced because 18 was a shocking year that certainly can't make money in property, especially in Perth. 2020 hits COVID, the world's going to fall apart. By 2022, it was overheated. The market had already done too much growth. By 2024, it was overheated, and here we are in 2025, and it's still running. So I think people will naturally always try to find to not to invest. But I think you also said it, education gives you that confidence to make decisions, and that decisions get you ahead like you've done. So well done, Chris. It's pretty impressive to see what you've been able to achieve in such a short amount of time.
Yeah, thank you.
Thanks for joining us, Chris. You've been listening to the Follio Property Podcast.